Hi, it's Alaska Granny. One of the consequences of being preppers is we have the things we need, and then we may, in times of need, encounter people who have not prepared, and they may ask us for help. We have to decide, am I willing to help them? Am I willing to barter with them? What kind of things am I willing to barter for? And should I prepare ahead of time for these kind of situations? One of the things that shocked me this week was I was speaking with one of my friends that I thought I knew very well, and I said something about SHTF, and they had no idea what that meant. I said, I thought everyone knows what SHTF is. So it may even be people that you think you know, and that's one of the things that you need to figure out. Who are like-minded people? And maybe they are like-minded in so many ways, but not in ways of preparedness. And I have friends that I've helped out before, and then I find out here we are in harder times, and they're not ready. They're not doing anything. And so you have to figure out, who am I willing to help? Is there anyone I'm willing to help? What kind of items am I willing to provide? It can be quite challenging because sometimes we think it's just strangers who are going to come to our house, or people that are just barely acquaintances that we really don't care about, but it could turn out to be people that you know. So the first thing you want to make sure that you do is you don't reveal the load of your stockpile. You never want to invite someone into your pantry and say, let me see how I can help you out. You don't ever want to let strangers into your home, and you never want to reveal, even to people that you know very well, how much you actually have. So you have to decide ahead of time, am I willing to barter, and what are the things I'm willing to barter for? I've put together a few items that I thought I would be willing to barter in times of dire emergencies, and I'll explain to you the things that I have and why I have those. The first item is cigarettes. I've never smoked in my life, but I do know people who do, and I know they go berserk if they can't get a cigarette. A few years ago, I stopped at a gun shop, and there was a liquor store next door, and people were going into the liquor store and they were trying to buy one cigarette. They didn't have enough money to buy a pack, but they were desperate to have a cigarette. I just had never thought about how addictive this could be, that people would be desperate to even buy one cigarette. So I did put some cigarettes aside. Cigarettes are an expensive, nasty habit, but they're very addicting, and I decided it would be worth investing in a few packs because sometimes people go berserk if they can't have their vices. So if I have a few cigarettes, and no, I wouldn't give someone a whole pack, and that's when you need to think about and prepare ahead. Have it open, maybe have one or two in your pocket, or put them in a Ziploc bag, and be willing to trade, barter, or even gift them to somebody who's desperate. But you never want to let them know you have more than that. People are also addicted to alcohol. So I have a few small bottles of alcohol. And no, I wouldn't pull the whole thing out, but I might pull one or two out and say, well, would you barter for this bottle of vodka or gin? At the beginning of the pandemic, they wouldn't even serve it on an airplane, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that people have been going berserk on an airplane. They are stressed out because of the pandemic, they're stressed out flying in crowds, and now you can't have a drink, so I can understand why some of them were very agitated. So I have a few bottles of alcohol, and it's something I decided I was willing to have a few on hand that I was willing to barter. To go along with the cigarettes, do you have some lighters? And how about some little boxes of matches? And they're not just for going with cigarettes. Maybe people need to start fires, light candles, do all kinds of the things that you would do with lighters and matches. So they're a great item to have for any survival situation, and perhaps you have a few extras that you would be willing to barter with to get things that you would want more than that. I've noticed lately that people practically go berserk if they can't have their bacon. They love it so much, and it's been in short supply or increasingly expensive. So I went to the Dollar Tree and I found a few little bottles of imitation bacon bits. And no, they're not really bacon, but if you really want that bacon flavor, I'd be willing to barter with this. If you ever stay in a hotel, they usually have some small toiletry items. These are nice to take when you leave because they're yours to keep if they were in your room, and you can put them in your suitcase if you're going to travel again, or you could set them aside because you could barter with these if you needed to. Cleanliness is extremely important, and if people can get a little bottle of shampoo, body wash, hand lotion, they might be willing to trade you for something that you'd rather have. Think about comfort items such as over-the-counter pain remedies. These would be nice to have on hand. You can get the small bottles for around $1, and they would be handy to have not only for your first aid, but in your bug-out bag, your get-home bag, and maybe even a few extras for bartering. If people don't feel well or they're suffering from withdrawals from their crazy addictions, a little over-the-counter pain relief might help relieve some of their symptoms. In times of emergency or short supply, a few extra over-the-counter medications might just do the trick. I've traveled to Africa many times, and one of the supplies that I always bring extra to hand out are toothbrushes. People need to keep their teeth clean. Did you ever go on vacation and forget your toothbrush? Wouldn't you have given nearly anything to get one? Places that I've traveled where they're not readily available, they were very appreciative to get a nice, clean, new extra toothbrush. I'm in the age group where everybody has their little reader over-the-counter glasses. Sometimes they call them cheaters. You ever been out with your friends and they can't read the menu or they can't read the hymnal in church, and maybe you've lent them your glasses? Having a few extra sets of glasses, even pick them up at the Toiletry, could be handy not only for yourself to be able to read the fine print on medication or directions, but then you would also have them to barter with people who maybe don't have theirs and really are in dire needs to get a few. If people are really hungry, you could hand them a granola bar. You could tear it open and eat it. You can buy boxes of them for a very inexpensive amount of money, and anybody could tear it open and eat it. You might want it for yourself, but maybe you could have a few extras that you would be willing to barter with people who are hungry. One trip where I was in Japan, when I would be out walking, this one area where I went, there was a man who was there begging every single time I walked by. And one day I handed him a granola bar. I thought maybe he's hungry, and he looked at it, and evidently that wasn't what he wanted, but he never came and begged for me ever again. I guess he figured whatever he wanted I wasn't going to give him, and I had given him what I was willing to. Recently, when I was in Walmart, I picked up a few cans of soup that were only 25 cents. It seemed like such an unbelievable price that I bought a few, even though I wasn't exactly sure what the flavors were or if my family would like them. And no, they weren't our favorites, but the price was good, so I went back to get some more just because it was a great price. And guess what? The 25-cent soups at Walmart are now $1.79. So talk about a dramatic increase. Yeah. While I can have these in my prepper pantry and my food stockpile, I might also be willing to barter with a few of the soups that I have on hand that aren't my favorite, but didn't cost me very much to have as an extra item. As preppers, we have lots of beans and rice. I wouldn't give away a whole bucket of beans. I wouldn't even give away a jar, but I might give away a Ziploc bag of beans or rice to somebody who really is hungry and really is in need. And if they're not willing to take a bag of beans or a bag of rice, I guess they're not really desperate, and so I don't need to barter or trade with them, and I don't need to be concerned anymore about their needs over my needs. Another thing that I observed when I was in Africa was the children would be carrying their books back and forth to school, and they don't have the luxury of backpacks like our children do, and they would be carrying them in a little piece of plastic wrapped around because it would be raining. And I thought if you could have even a few of the extra shopping bags, and some of them are reusable and they're quite heavy duty, that would be a great item to have to barter with people so that they have a container to carry things around. It doesn't need to, you don't need to stock up on the super cheap bags. You can use those for your own trash or garbage. But if you do have a few of the extra heavy duty ones, save them aside for even if you need to carry things around. so you don't have to try to double and triple bag with the crummy bags. Maybe some of the heavier duty bags would be something you have with your emergency gear if you needed to grab and go. And if someone else is struggling because they don't have a container, that could be something that you could gift to them or think about bartering. So these are some of the items that I have that I would consider bartering with. I would never be willing to exchange guns, ammo, knives, nothing of a weapon that could be used against me and my family. I would never barter that under any circumstances. You also want to be extremely careful. In times of dire emergencies and dangerous situations, your safety and that of your family is number one. And in very certain circumstances, you wouldn't consider bartering with anyone for anything, especially if you're not desperate. So you want to think about that. But if you feel like a circumstance might be safe and you could help someone and even help yourself, then it might be something you would consider. So leave a comment below. Tell us, what are your thoughts on bartering? What are some items that you would consider having to trade with others? And some safety tips to help us all navigate the struggles that we seem to be going through now and looking forward into the future. If we think about the situations we might encounter, then we can make plans. We can be prepared and not scared of an uncertain future because we've thought about different scenarios, we've planned out what we could do. The whole point of being a prepper is to make each day of our lives be as smooth as possible. So if you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.